Chained to a restraint chair, a young woman with pink hair endured excruciating torment. Electricity coursed through her body, marking the start of a brutal and inhumane experiment. Over time, the woman's resistance faded. She no longer had the strength to fight, and with her head down, she seemed to accept her terrible fate. As she lifted her face, tears of regret streamed down her cheeks. The young woman expressed an apology, consumed by guilt for a failure that haunted her. A man reached out in despair, trying to reach her. However, he was powerless, only able to watch the woman's suffering from a distance. He wasn't the only one to fail. Around him, other prisoners had already succumbed to the same cruel fate, their lifeless bodies tied to the chairs. The room revealed itself to be a slaughterhouse. Dozens of people were trapped, and a man's screams of denial echoed the terror and hopelessness of everyone present. The same man who tried to save her was now trapped, chained like the others. He wept copiously, his face contorted by the pain of his impotence and failure. The memory took him back to a different time, a world of fantasy and epic battles, a place where incredible powers were used in grandiose combats. He remembered how it all started. A friend invited him to a game called Reverse Planet, and the young man, unaware of the consequences, decided to enter that virtual world. But the game was just a facade. In the laboratory, figures in protective suits approached the survivors. One of them coldly congratulated Subject Number 62 on their survival. The scientists, with their gas masks, watched the results with clinical detachment. To them, the prisoners were not people, but just data on a clipboard. It was all part of a bigger plan. Documents on a table revealed the name of the experiment that caused so much suffering: Project Transcendence. The project's methods were brutal and dehumanizing. One of the prisoners was force-fed, a clear example of the cruelty inflicted in the name of science. All that brutality was part of an official initiative: Project Transcendence. The files on the table contained the dark details of its methods, a secret record of the dehumanization conducted in the name of a perverse goal. The project revealed its cruelest face. Gagged and immobilized, a test subject writhed in excruciating agony as a powerful energy was unleashed upon him. The quest for transcendence was a path of pure torment. A man with a grotesque mask watched his work with sadistic and uncontrolled pleasure. He seemed satisfied with the result of his cruel procedure. Another test subject didn't survive the experiment. The assistants removed the lifeless body from the torture chair, treating it as a simple discarded object. While the previous body was dragged away, a new prisoner was placed in the chair. The young man with black hair watched the scene, understanding that he was next. However, he endured the agony with fierce determination. The young man gritted his teeth, refusing to scream or faint, resisting the pain that consumed him. Suddenly, a red emergency light flashed, and an alarm sounded throughout the facility. Something had gone wrong, creating an unexpected opportunity. Taking advantage of the distraction, the prisoners began a desperate escape. They ran en masse through the corridor, seeking freedom at any cost. The young man with black hair encouraged his companions to continue, showing that hope was not yet lost. He acted as an impromptu leader. However, the escape route was blocked. An elite guard, with an imposing physique and a menacing look, waited for them at the end of the corridor. The fugitives realized they were cornered. Armed with what they found, they prepared for a life-or-death fight against a formidable enemy. The battle was brutal and savage. In an act of pure desperation, the prisoners attacked the guard with all the fury they had accumulated. They managed to defeat the guard, but the victory came at a terrible price. All of the protagonist's companions fell, dead or mortally wounded on the floor. The sole survivor looked at the carnage around him, and despair took over. The tragedy repeated itself, leaving him alone once again. The shadows of his dead friends rose, clamoring for revenge. Their voices echoed in the young man's mind, begging him to avenge them. The pain and fury of the fallen began to flow into the protagonist's body. A dark and powerful energy began to envelop him completely. He accepted that dark power. The young man surrendered to the darkness, transforming into a receptacle for the hatred and desire for revenge of his companions. An armed squad advanced through a corridor, firing their weapons with precision. The attack was coordinated and relentless, seeking to eliminate a specific target. However, the offensive was useless. One of the soldiers fell instantly, shot down by a precise and lethal blow before he could even react. Then, the person responsible for the attack revealed himself. A man of imposing physique and determined gaze, he moved with a frightening confidence like a predator. His mind, however, was invaded by a painful memory. He saw himself chained, tormented by shadowy figures, a scream of agony stuck in his throat. Back in reality, the protagonist analyzed a holographic device. His expression was cold and calculating, focused on his mission. The violence left a trail of destruction. Blood stained the walls, a silent testament to the massacre that had occurred in that place. Baek Woo-yeon, the superhuman, observed the result of his actions. Before him, surrounded by bodies, an executive knelt in despair, while his blonde accomplice watched. Terrified, the executive tried to bargain for his life. He shouted promises of wealth and power, desperate to find something that could satisfy his executioner. The blonde-haired man, however, showed no patience for pleas. He grabbed the executive by the collar, his action full of contempt and aggression. With a sadistic smile, Baek Woo-hyun's accomplice confronted the man. His words were of pure mockery, making it clear that there was no escape or negotiation possible. The blonde man then turned to his leader, calling out the name Baek Woo-hyun. The protagonist remained silent, his face impassive, as if the scene didn't affect him. The terror in the executive's eyes intensified. He finally understood the truth. His pleas were useless, and his death was inevitable. Baek Woo-yeon decided it was the end. He raised his hand, concentrating a sinister energy, preparing to deliver the final blow without hesitation. Faced with imminent death, the executive could only let out one last scream of pure terror, his composure completely destroyed by fear. The blood-stained plaque on the table revealed the target of that attack, the League of Enterprises. Baek Woo-hyun's revenge was against a powerful organization. The League of Enterprises headquarters was the scene of a violent event. The broken and blood-stained plaque at the entrance signaled the end of an era for the powerful organization. Inside, an older man lay dead on the floor of his office. His life was taken abruptly and brutally, leaving a trail of destruction. The assassin, a young man with silver hair, coldly removed the knife from his own arm. He showed no pain, only a relentless determination after completing his mission. The young man expressed his frustration with the outcome. He scolded his companion, annoyed that they had missed the chance to obtain important information from the man they had just killed. However, the black-haired man remained indifferent to the complaints. His gaze was fixed on a holographic screen, focused on a goal that transcended the confusion of the moment. He prepared to make a final decision. With his finger hovering over the confirmation, the man was about to seal his fate and that of many others. Memories of revenge and suffering consumed him. Surrounded by shadows of his past that cried out for retribution, he felt the weight of his burning desire for justice. The spilled blood was a testament to the violent path he walked. Each step left an indelible mark, a reminder of the price of his revenge. Upon realizing his companion's intention, the silver-haired young man tried to stop him. He grabbed him tightly, desperate to prevent the man from making an irreversible decision. The black-haired man calmly revealed that he was just going home. His partner, however, reacted with fury, unable to accept his enigmatic words. With a melancholic smile, he made one last request to his companion. Then, the man touched the screen, activating the system and disappearing in a flash of light. Suddenly, the protagonist woke up startled in his bed. He was gasping for air and disoriented, as if he had just come out of a vivid and violent dream. The young man sat up, recognizing the familiar surroundings of his room. The confusion, however, remained, as reality seemed strangely displaced from what he had just experienced. Seeking an anchor in reality, he picked up his cell phone from the nightstand. The young man needed something concrete to ward off the feeling of unreality that dominated him. The screen lit up, revealing the date, May 19th, 2041. The information shocked him as he realized that he had returned to a specific point in his past. The protagonist observed himself in the bathroom mirror. He touched his face, confirming to himself that the marks of his past had finally disappeared completely. His mind took him back to a time of brutal violence, a memory of when he desperately fought for his freedom, breaking the chains that bound him. At that time, the young man did not hesitate. Each blow was delivered with a cold and relentless determination, even if the cost was his own body. Amidst the chaos of that memory, a voice pleaded for help. A woman, wounded and desperate, begged him to save her from that nightmare. One man's nightmare was another's victory. The protagonist's enemy screamed in agony and defeat, his fate sealed by those hands. Meanwhile, the defeated man and his memories woke up startled. The memory of that day still haunted him, leaving him stunned in his own room. Back in the present, the sound of a cell phone broke the silence. A call from a woman named Jung Nayeon appeared on the screen, interrupting the quiet of the morning. The protagonist got up and answered the call. He didn't seem at all happy with the interruption that took him away from his reflections. The voice on the other end of the line was immediately accusatory. Her question left him visibly irritated, as if he was being blamed for something he didn't do. After the initial outburst, the young man's irritation gave way to silent reflection. He stared at the device, the conversation reminding him of the past with her. On the screen, an old photo revealed the dynamic between them. Jung Nayeon was pure energy and joy, while the protagonist remained distant and indifferent beside her. The memories came flooding back. He remembered her insistence, always trying to include him in her world, even when he resisted with clear impatience. There were moments, however, when his guard seemed to drop, a fleeting look that perhaps hid a feeling that he rarely showed. The image of her smiling at him in a restaurant was vivid. The young woman always seemed to find a reason to be happy near him, despite his coldness. However, the reality of that relationship was different. He got up abruptly from the table, ignoring her attempt to talk and showing his unwillingness to share the moment. The sound of meat grilling on the griddle filled the air. It was a moment of normalcy, a shared meal that promised a casual and relaxed conversation. The protagonist listened attentively to his table companion. He processed her words with a focused expression, the meal momentarily forgotten. The young woman in the pink cap explained animatedly how she was dragged into the situation. Her surprised expression revealed how unexpected everything had been for her. The conversation, however, awakened a painful memory. The protagonist clenched his fist tightly, a wave of resentment washing over him as he thought about what happened because of someone. The girl changed her tone, reminding him of a promise he made about her broadcasts. Her expression was a mixture of demand and feigned disappointment. Semal. Despite the internal tension, the casual interaction made him feel like he was finally back to normal life. That simple moment in a restaurant was something he hadn't experienced in a long time. Later, the young man was in front of the computer. He researched a tech company, his fingers moving quickly across the keyboard as he focused on the screen. Suddenly, an overwhelming sensation hit him. The protagonist leaned back, gasping, as if a physical memory took over his body.